What happens when a television host, known for his rapid-fire questions and ironclad narratives, invites a guest he believes he can control only to discover she is the one controlling him? That is exactly what unfolded the night Sean Hannity brought Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett onto his show. A night that began like every other political interview, but ended as a moment burned into the memory of everyone watching. And it all began before the cameras even started rolling. The atmosphere before the storm. The studio felt different that night. Producers whispered among themselves, darting in and out of the shadows behind the cameras. Makeup artists retouched Hannity's already perfect appearance, while interns scurried around with stacks of notes, graphs, talking points, and pre-written soundbites. Hannity sat at his desk, posture stiff, but confident, rehearsing questions under his breath. He had practiced all day. He had expected resistance. He had expected pushback. But he had not expected what was walking through his studio door. Then the door swung open. Jasmine Crockett entered the room like she owned it. Not with arrogance. Not with theatrics. But with the calm, deliberate confidence of someone who has waged real battles, courtroom battles, congressional battles, street-level battles in communities forgotten by the very systems meant to protect them. She wore a sleek blazer, shoulders squared, chin high. Her eyes scanned the studio like a litigator assessing a jury. Producers fell silent. Even Hannity, momentarily caught off guard, straightened up a bit more. He'd expected a challenge. He wasn't prepared for a force. The interview begins. The cameras flipped on. The red light glowed. Hannity went into his trademark introduction, voice smooth, authoritative, familiar. He framed the conversation before it even began, painting Crockett as a controversial figure, someone whose party was responsible for the nation's issues. Then he fired his first question, quick and pointed. "Congresswoman, don't you think your party's policies are out of touch with everyday Americans?" A classic Hannity trap. A question designed not for debate but for cornering. But Crockett didn't step into the trap. She didn't even dignify it with urgency. Instead, she sat back, crossed her hands, and smiled. It was the kind of smile that says, "I see your game, but we're going to play mine." Then she answered, not rushed, not defensive, but with a calm that disarmed everyone in the room. "Sean, let's talk about what's really out of touch." Hannity's eyebrow twitched. She continued, "Everyday Americans aren't struggling because of my party. They're struggling because wages aren't rising while costs keep exploding. People are working full-time and living in poverty. That's not a democratic failure, that's the failure of a system built for the wealthy." Her voice was steady. Her tone surgical. And Hannity felt it. The balance of power shifting ever so slightly. The first crack in the host. He tried to pivot. He tried to steer it back to his talking points. "So you don't believe democratic spending is responsible for?" But Crockett raised a hand, a simple, subtle gesture that immediately commanded the floor. "Sean, families aren't drowning because of spending on healthcare, education, or infrastructure. They're drowning because billionaires dodge taxes, corporations exploit loopholes, and your party protects them every step of the way." The audience audibly reacted. Hannity stiffened. This wasn't the script he set. This wasn't the path he was prepared for. But Crockett wasn't finished. Let's be honest. Working people are paying a bigger share of taxes than corporations worth billions. Teachers, firefighters, nurses. Meanwhile, the rich fly to space while families choose between gas and groceries. Hannity opened his mouth, but no sound came out. Crockett had stripped the argument down before he even had a chance to make it. Hannity tries to fight back. Desperate to regain footing, Hannity pulled out one of his most reliable fallbacks, crime. He launched into statistics, headlines, graphics painting democratic cities as dangerous, chaotic, and mismanaged. His voice grew sharper, faster, more assertive. But Crockett didn't flinch. She leaned forward slightly, eyes locked on him. "You want to talk about crime? Let's talk about why crime happens. Let's talk about poverty, lack of opportunity, and underfunded schools. Let's talk about mental health support that doesn't exist. Let's talk about your party blocking every attempt at meaningful reform." Her words hit like a sledgehammer wrapped in velvet. But most importantly, she continued, "Let's talk about the fact that people who commit tax fraud, corporate fraud, insider trading, those criminals, They wear suits. They sit in boardrooms. And they're protected by the same people who scream about crime in the streets. The studio fell silent. You could hear the tension buzzing in the lights above them. Hannity exhaled slowly. He had lost control of the direction. And he knew it. The breaking point. Hannity tried again, this time raising his voice, trying to interrupt, trying to regain dominance. But Crockett didn't budge. Her presence only grew stronger. You keep repeating the same talking points, she said. Fear, chaos, blame. That's not leadership, that's distraction. The audience erupted again, some in shock, some in admiration, some unsure what to feel. Crockett leaned back, her expression unshaken. Americans don't need fear, she said. They need solutions. They need opportunity. They need an economy that works for them, not just the wealthy. Hannity finally spoke, but his voice trembled with frustration. So you're saying Republicans are the problem? Crockett didn't hesitate. I'm saying the problem is people in power who protect wealth over workers, corporations over communities, and greed over dignity. If that shoe fits Shan, then lace it up. It was over. The studio erupted, producers scrambling, the audience buzzing, Hannity visibly rattled. He could barely get through the closing segment. After the cameras stopped. As soon as the broadcast ended, Hannity tore off his earpiece. His face was tight, jaw clenched. He whispered urgently to his producers, trying to spin what had just happened. Meanwhile, Crockett stood slowly, smoothed her jacket, and nodded politely to the crew. No gloating. No victory lap. Just the confidence of someone who came prepared and delivered. She walked out of the studio like she walked in, steady, poised, unbothered. Outside, her team was waiting. Supporters greeted her with applause. And she simply exhaled, letting the cool night air wash over her. She had done more than survive the interview. She had rewritten it. People would talk about this moment. Clips would go viral. Commentators would dissect every second. Because this wasn't just an interview. This was a masterclass in composure. A turning point for a rising political force. And a rare moment where the guest didn't just answer the questions. She owned the room.